Not live.
Nothing like live.
Nothing like
so
live.
My name is Joe Scarice. Some of you know who I am. I was working for First Trust Bank for the past 6 years, more in that resi-commercial environment. I decided to accept a position with Lending One, which is based out of Boca Raton. My territory is the Northeast region, including Philadelphia, up from Maine, down to Virginia, out to Ohio. But I'm licensed in all 50 states. So if you want to be an out-of-state landlord as well, we can do loans. Everything has to be in the name of an LLC, S Corp, C Corp, or a revocable trust. And I can also set up a portal for anyone here to educate themselves as a real estate professional to understand pricing with a private lender. What is the difference between a private lender? Private lending is Wall Street hedge fund money. The banks have their money, which is a different type of evaluation of a loan. They do a deeper dive on you. We take a deeper dive on the property from the asset. We do look at credit, but we definitely take a lesser focus on your financial perspective and more of a financial perspective of the property. And we're much different than hard money because our goal is to strategize to scale you up in your real estate portfolio. So by saying that, we're going to bring some educational subjects to you. This morning I thought it was a very good subject because Janis has just recently opened up her real estate school. It's the Janis Benstock Real Estate Academy. We both taught, she taught much longer than I have, at Temple University, the real estate school. So, and she also taught at Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors. And I didn't have the opportunity to teach there, but I think, continuing education is important. I really think if you really want to be recognized as a true real estate professional, having your real estate licenses is very important. I've had my licenses in escrow for my own endeavors since 1988. So I've been licensed in New Jersey and PA since 1988. I'm going to keep those licenses. I pay that money to re-up every year because I find it to be cost benefit, and it keeps me in more of an integrous environment in the real estate industry. Now again, has it ever gotten in my way of identifying a good asset off market? Never. I just disclose and I either buy the property or I don't. So I just want to let you know there's no bad to getting your license in real estate and being a real estate investor. I think it's an extra tool, an extra spoon to the soup, okay, to make you more successful. So that's my thoughts. If there's any questions, obviously, in regards to our monthly event, whether it's the Saturdays or the Mondays, if there's some type of subject you want us to add in the future, we'll obviously take those into consideration and try to put that together with a licensed or certified professional in that field. Okay? But again, we're scheduled out. Take a look at our schedule. We're on Eventbrite, Meetup, NetMixer, Facebook, LinkedIn, Bigger Pockets, Instagram. We're there to hopefully provide a consistent flavor of education, networking, and hopefully creating some opportunities. Good? Excellent. Janis,
Well,
the video is yours.
Thank you. How long do you...
As long as you need.
Phone. Okay. Is that your phone?
That's my phone.
Because I know he's going to need it.
You don't want that phone.
No, I don't want it. Hi, everybody. I'm Janis Benstock. And as Joe mentioned, I am the founder of the Janis Benstock Real Estate Academy, or JBREA, we call it for short. It's a mouthful to say the whole thing. And I have been a licensed real estate agent since 1996. I just hit my 25-year mark. And in 2014, I decided to open my own real estate brokerage. So I opened up a company called Settle Down Philadelphia. We're located at 4th and Spring Garden, and we also have a side hustle New Jersey business, which is Settle Down New Jersey, but it runs out of our Philadelphia office. And that's just there for pretty much people who want to go down the shore and buy an investment property or cross the bridge so that we can capitalize on that business as well and help serve our clients. I started teaching the real estate pre-licensure courses in 2017 at Temple University's Real Estate Institute. And it's a great school, I love it, but I'm an entrepreneur and I wanted my own baby. I wanted to make my own school, my own logo, my own branding, my own environment, my own culture, and teach the way I want to teach. And so I moved out on my own with all the love and respect for Temple. I have nothing against them. They're a great university and a great real estate school. So now I teach classes. I teach people how to get their license, because you have to have education and pass an exam in order to get your real estate license, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And I also teach build your business classes, because if you're going to get a job, a career in real estate, the easy part is passing the classes and the exam. The hard part starts when you wake up the first day unemployed and you're like, what do I do now? Like, where do I get buyers and sellers from? They make it look so easy on HGTV. It's not so easy, so you have to have a plan and know what you're doing. And also, there's a requirement by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that all real estate licensees take 14 hours of continuing education in every 2-year renewal cycle. And we are just entering the renewal cycle now, so I'm really busy teaching CE also. So I'm here today to tell you, I know that you guys are all investors at different stages in your investing strategy, I assume, right? So as investors, it may make sense for you to get your real estate license. And Joe said there's no downside. I disagree. There are some downsides, and I'm going to be straight with you on what the pros and the cons are. And then it's informal, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So the first thing is, why do you even need to get a real estate license? Real estate licenses are regulated in all 50 states as well as all the Canadian provinces, and they're regulated by the state. It's not a federal thing, it's not a local thing, it's at the state level. And the purpose of licensing laws in every state is to protect the public from sloppy and unscrupulous practices. And you will know as a real estate investor without a license that you're dealing with a lot of people, buyers, sellers, other investors, wholesalers, who are doing the business, and they may or may not know what they're doing, but they're not held accountable by anyone for doing these complicated transactions. So you're going to come across people who know their stuff and do the right thing even if they don't have a license, and you're going to come across people who just either are inexperienced, uneducated, or shady, or a combination of all three.
Practicing real estate without a license.
Exactly. Well, the definition of practicing real estate, which you need a license for, you can buy and sell your own stuff. And I'm not going to get into wholesaling because I have a whole thing about wholesaling, and if you wholesale, you wholesale, but I have a whole thing about why wholesaling shouldn't be a thing, and it's starting to get regulated. Philadelphia is starting to get regulated, but technically right now, the law has not stepped in and said wholesaling is illegal. I think that it's a very gray area, and I think that's going to change, but as of right now, you do not need a real estate license to wholesale. What you do need a real estate license for, the definition of it, is to be compensated for bringing a buyer and seller or landlord or tenant together. That's why we're called brokers. A definition of a broker is someone that brings the parties together and receives a fee. So a mortgage broker brings the lender, which is the bank, and the borrower together, and they receive a fee, and they need a license. A mortgage banker, on the other hand, isn't bringing bank and borrower together. They work directly for the bank. So they're basically selling the bank's products. So the difference between a broker and a banker in the mortgage space is bringing buyer and lender together, because when you go to a mortgage broker, and we're talking about buying your house, we're not talking about what Joe does, right? We're talking about you buying a house. If you go straight to Bank of America, the rep at Bank of America is selling their products. But if you go to ABC Lending, what they do is they have relationships with Bank of America, with PNC, with whatever other banks, Wells Fargo, TD, and then they interview the borrower and they help determine and match them up with the best lender. What they're doing is they're bringing lender and borrower together and receiving a fee. As a real estate broker or a real estate salesperson, what you're doing is you're bringing buyer and seller together and receiving a fee. You're not selling your own product. When you sell your own product, when you buy your own investment property, or you sell your own investment property or your primary residence, you don't need a real estate license. You're not being compensated for bringing two people together. You're just buying or selling real estate on the open market. So getting a real estate license doesn't enable you to transact on your own behalf. You can already do that. What it enables you to do is receive compensation, or what we call a commission, for bringing buyer and seller or landlord and tenant together. So as a real estate investor, if your goal is not to go out and sell houses and bring buyer and seller together, excuse me, why would you possibly need a real estate license? Well, the main reason, there are two main reasons why investors tend to get their licenses. And the first one is because they don't want to leave money on the table. This is the big one. You buy a property for your investment portfolio that's listed on the MLS, the multiple listing service, that's offering a commission. And if you don't have a real estate license, you don't get that commission. You're just the buyer or just the seller. But if you have a real estate license and you represent yourself as the buyer and they're offering a commission to the buyer's agent, you get that commission. So let's say you're buying a $100,000 property and they're offering a 3% commission to the buyer's agent. It's $3,000. You have a real estate license. Now, when you buy that property, you get that $3,000 commission. Now, part of it is going to be split with your broker, and I'll talk about working for a broker in a minute because you have to work for a broker. But you're going to get that $3,000. Most likely, you're going to get somewhere in the vicinity of $2,000 out of that deal, and the broker is going to get another $1,000. Now, that is negotiable, but for an example, let's say that. So you're buying a $100,000 property. You're getting a $3,000 commission, $1,000 of it belongs to your broker, which is your employer, and $2,000 is yours. You can take that money in one of three ways. You can close on the property, getting your loan with Joe or cash or however you do it, and then you're going to get a check for $3,000, give it to your broker, and your broker's going to pay you $2,000. Upside is you have $2,000 in your pocket. Downside is you have $2,000 worth of income that you have to now pay income tax on. So that's probably not the best way to do it. The other way that you could do it is you could just say, you know what, this is a $100,000 house, and I'm gonna instead pay $98,000 for it. And you're only, instead of paying me a $3,000 commission, you're gonna pay me a $1,000 commission. That goes to my broker, and I'm gonna take my portion as a reduction in the sales price. Now I don't have to pay tax on it, legally, because I'm not earning income. Or you could say, I'm going to buy that property for $100,000, and instead of taking the cash in my pocket, I'm going to have the seller give me a credit at the table. So that'll help cover my closing costs, and I don't have to treat that as income, and I don't have to pay income tax on it. So any one of the three ways that you do it, the bottom line is having your real estate license is going to enable you to collect that commission every time you do a transaction. Now, what does it take to get your real estate license? Because is it worth it? The answer is maybe. So let's talk about what it takes to get your real estate license in Pennsylvania. The state requires you have to be 18 years or older, which I assume all of us in here are, except for maybe you. I can't see your face. I don't know how old you are. You also have to have a high school diploma or equivalent, and you have to take 75 hours of education. It's split into two classes, a 30-hour class and a 45-hour class, and that's what I teach at my school. They're called pre-licensure courses. They're what you need to take to get your license. So the way it works is you take the 30-hour course, not all at once, it's split up. I offer it in 2-hour increments 5 days a week. I offer it in 3-hour increments at night. So you're gonna, in some places, offer like a weekend boot camp where you could take 2 weekends, like full days, and bang it out. So there are different options how you can take the classes. At the end of the 30-hour class, which is called Real Estate Fundamentals, you take an exit exam, like a final exam. Then you take the practice class, which is the 45-hour class. You take another exit exam. Once you pass the courses, then you have to sit for the state exam. So you go to a testing center, or now because of COVID, you could do it at home on your computer. And you take a national test, which is 80 questions, and a state test, which is 40 questions. So you have to get a 75% on the exam to pass, and they're graded separately. So if you don't pass the one part, you go back and take that part again. Once you pass the exam, you then become eligible for licensure, and then you have to go hang your license with a broker. And that's my Settle Down Philadelphia. And you can do it anywhere. But a brokerage is where you have to hang your license, because when you get your license is a real estate salesperson, and you have to hang it with a broker, and the broker is legally responsible for training you, supervising you, and they're legally responsible for everything you do real estate wise. So if you write a contract, you need to clear it with me when you're new so that I can help you and make sure it's legally in compliance. And then you go out and you do your thing. And if you mess up, I'm the one that gets in trouble if you make a mistake. If you do fraud, that's your problem, right? But if you make a mistake, it gets covered under my insurance. So there's this supervisory, mentor, training, responsibility thing that the broker has with you. Once you get your salesperson's license, you can start working towards your broker's license if this is something you want to do. And the broker's license requires 3 years of experience in real estate. You have to take another 240 hours of education and another exam. And you also have to, just let me finish this one thing so I don't forget, because I have the brain span of a flea. And if you say one thing, I'm off. I'm like Dory, right? And Finding Nemo, I'm like, what? So the last thing is you have to have 200 points of experience. So that 3 years that you're a salesperson, you have to keep track of all the transactions you do, and you get 5 points for every listing that you had that sold, 5 points for every buyer, a point for every lease, and a point for every listing that didn't sell, and you have to add them up. So you have to meet all of the requirements, 3 years and the 200 points. Sorry, what's your name?
Tamara.
Tamara. Hi, Tamara. Hi.
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
So in terms of once you pass the state exam, is there a certain time frame that I have to hang my license with the broker?
1 year.
1 year.
1 year. So you have, that's a good question. So from the time you finish your courses, you have 5 years to pass the exam. Once you pass the exam, you have 1 year to hang your license with a broker. So, go ahead, sure. What's your name?
Max.
Max? Hi, Max. Oh, Mac.
Yes.
Okay.
Would the broker want you to hang your license with them, or is it a problem with that, or is it a gain for them?
No, so it's a gain for them, and that's a really good question. And I actually have a webinar, a free live webinar, not live, a free evergreen webinar that you can watch that I talk. It's about an hour, I think an hour, talking about how to choose a broker, because it's a long process. But here's the short of it. You are a cash cow. You are in the position of power when you get your real estate license. All my students get nervous in the beginning because they think that they're going on job interviews and they have to have a resume when they get out of real estate school. No, you are going to make me money. I'm going to be begging you to come work for me. So you have to remember that when you go out choosing a broker, is that you choose the broker that's going to be the best fit for you. You don't choose the broker because they'll have you. Here's an inside scoop. When you take the exam, it's called the PSI exam. That's the state exam, because PSI is the company that administers the exam. PSI sells the lists, with your knowledge, sells the list of all the people who take the PSI exam every month, and they sell it to brokers so that we can recruit new agents. So you are a hot commodity, and you have to remember that. So that when you get out, the last thing you have to worry about is, will someone take me? It's, who am I going to choose? You're in the position of power. Any other questions before I move on? Go ahead.
I have another question.
Sure.
So let's just say I hang my license with one broker and things are not really working out.
Switch.
You can easily switch.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's some, I wouldn't say you can easily switch. I mean, it's a transition. It's just like moving. Like, no one's ever going to tell you that you can't move, but you have to pack. So it's one of those things where you just, if you have deals in the pipeline, you have to have an exit strategy so that you can take, but you can at any time, and I talk about that in that webinar, because one of the things about choosing your broker is you can do all the research in the world, but you don't know what you don't know. So you start working for someone because you ask the right questions, but then you realize, I didn't even think to ask this question because I didn't know, because I was new, and now this broker's doing this weird thing and I don't like the way it is. You can move. You absolutely can move.
You don't even have to tell them, really. You just switch from one to the other.
Right.
And they'll notify them.
Right. You should You don't have to, but you should, because you don't want to burn bridges. Because what I will tell you is it's a small town. Philadelphia is like 10,000 people and a whole lot of mirrors. We all know each other. We all know each other. And one thing about selling real estate, even if you're just doing it for yourself, your reputation with other brokers is more important than your reputation with your clients, because we are going to work together over and over and over again. And trust me, you do not want to burn bridges with other brokers. You do not want to. Because if you want to show a listing and it's a listing that your old broker had and you ran out in the middle of the night and you know, did them dirty, it's going to be a problem. All right, so let's talk about money, because it costs money to get your license.
That shouldn't be a problem.
What shouldn't be a problem?
They shouldn't be, ethically, they shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Well, you're right. You're 100% right. So ethically, they're not allowed to prevent you from showing the property or anything like that, but it sure makes the transaction. And here's the other thing. Let's say we're in a crazy seller's market. We're coming out of a crazy seller's market, but it was pretty crazy for a while. And we all know seller's market means there is less inventory than there are buyers. Demand is high, supply is low, so the sellers are in the position of power. So I have a listing and each one of you has a buyer and you're all showing my property. Ethically representing my seller, I need to treat each one of your offers the same, and I need to present them to my seller and I will sit down and discern and decide on the best offer. But in reality, we're all human, and if you did me dirty, I know you would never do me dirty, but you did me dirty. You did me dirty in the middle of the night, and both of you guys, your offers are virtually the same. But I know that you're not easy to work with because you're shady and dirty and you're going to do me dirty. That's going to affect whether my seller takes this deal or not. If your deal is completely, totally, obviously way better, it's not. But when it's subtle, that's going to come into play. And don't think that it won't. It shouldn't, but we're human. It does. And so whatever you do, and even if you don't get your license and you're just out there investing and you're dealing with agents, be the best you can be, because it's your reputation. We all know each other. We all know each other. You would be surprised, well, not 25 years of contacts because the iPhone came out in 2008, but however many years that is of contacts, there are people that sometimes will call me or text me and their name shows up in my phone because 10 years ago they called me about an investment property, right? They're an investor, so we all know each other. So cost, let's talk about cost. There are several different ways that you can take your real estate courses. You could take them online, we call asynchronous, you know, where you sit in front of the PowerPoint, do it at your own pace, listen to them talk, whatever. I would just poke myself in the eye. I have no patience for that. The cheapest. And you can get that through my website, through the CE shop. And it's like $150 or something and they go on sale. It's like super cheap. You do the time, you can do it that way. That's the bare bones minimum. If you can function that way and you can do enough to pass the exam and that's all you're looking for is to get that license so that you don't leave money on the table, that's an option. And you can do it at home in your underwear at 3 o'clock in the morning. The other option is to take classes in person, which some people now in person are doing Zoom. I'm back to in person and I'm staying in person until someone tells me that I can't anymore, because people learn better that way and I teach better that way. So the in-person classes run, I've seen them anywhere from about $400 to about $800. My fee is $555. It's $222 for the 30-hour course, $333 for the second course, and I also do a payment plan of $111 a month. You end up paying an extra $111, and the payment plan goes on for 7 or 8 months. And if you finish the courses before the payment plan, that's cool. You just get your transcripts when you're paid in full. End of story. No, it's 5-6 months, something like that. It's on the website. I also offer extra courses, 2 courses to help you pass the exam, and 1 course to help you build your business. So the 2 courses to help you pass your exam, I do once a month via Zoom, because people from all over Pennsylvania take those, actually all over the country, because it's strategy on the exam. It's not specific to Pennsylvania. So they're once a month on Zoom, and then I have an online course, which is do at your own pace, about how to build your business. And it's not really geared towards investors, but if you have your license and you decide that you also want to sell real estate, that might help you. And that whole package is discounted for $777. It's all on my website. And I'm not telling you this to sell you. I'm telling you this to give you an idea of what people charge. So you're looking at the bare minimum about $150, top around $700 or $800 to get your license, to get your education. Then it's $49 for the PSI exam, to take the exam. And I think it's about $120 to get your license from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for the first time. So the startup costs are going to cost you up to about $1,000 for the first year. And then it could be less if you do the online classes. And then going forward each year, it's going to cost you about $1,000 to keep your license. And the fees, the bulk of the fees come from the MLS, the multiple listing service, which is the second main reason why people get their license. And I'll talk about the MLS in a second. You have access to our database. So that fee comes out to about $600 a year, $500 a year. And then also, if your brokerage that you join is a member of NAR, National Association of Realtors, when you hear the term, she's a realtor, that doesn't mean real estate licensee. That means we're a member of the National Association of Realtors. That those dues for the year are about another $500 or $600. So you're looking at about $1,000 a year in upkeep. So if you're not going to do enough deals to make $1,000, right there it's going to cost you money. And right there is going to tell you it doesn't make sense. But here's a fun fact. In addition to getting commissions from deals that you do for yourself, guess what else your real estate license lets you do? Ready? You can receive referral fees from anyone in all 50 states legally. And here's what it means. And this is a real life example. I was sitting on my computer one day, almost a year ago, and an instant message popped up from my son's old preschool teacher. My sons are 17, I don't even know how old they are, 17 and almost 19. So from a long time ago. And she sends an instant message and it says, my boss is having a hard time selling her property. Can you give me your opinion? So the first thing I did was I said to myself, I'm busy and what do you think I'm going to do for free and blah, 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 right? I got all bent out of shape and then I took a breath and I said, I talked to myself in the third person. I said, Janis, let's look at this differently. So I took a break, I took a breath, I looked up the property. The woman's boss had it listed FSBO, for sale by owner, on Zillow. Don't even get me started about Zillow. And at Zillow, if you're watching this, don't even get me started on Zillow. She had it listed FSBO on Zillow. So I looked at the listing, she had it listed for $2.2 million. So I said, I want a little piece of this, right? Who doesn't want a piece of this? And it's in North Jersey, and I'm licensed in New Jersey, but I'm not driving to North Jersey and selling a house. I don't even know the neighborhood, I don't know the market, I don't know the values. So here's what I said. I contacted my son's preschool teacher and I said, I think the reason why it's not selling is because she doesn't have it listed. She's trying to sell it herself. She said, oh. I said, let me get you introduced to a real estate agent who can get it sold for you. She said, okay. So I went into my Facebook group, which is real estate agents from all over the country, and I said, who does this town in North Jersey? And of course, they swarmed on it because they all want it. And I interviewed a few of them, and I picked the one that I knew intuitively was going to get the deal done. And I signed a referral agreement with her. I signed a piece of paper, and it's a form that we have access to, and it said, I'm giving you this client, I get 25% of the commission when it closes. We both signed. At the time, I was counting on $18,000. The price has since been reduced to 1.5. It's getting ready to close. It's getting ready for them to not close settlement, but close a deal. I'll get a check in the mail for $12,000 for about an hour's worth of work. Now, you as a licensee are not going to get the full $12,000 because you're going to have to share it with your broker. I don't have to share it with a broker, but I also have to pay overhead. So, right? But so even if you're not going to be out working with buyers and sellers because you're concentrating on your investing, you can still refer deals out to people for a percentage of the commission. And you can negotiate anything you want. What I see commonly is anywhere from 20 to 30%. I would say mostly 20 to 25%, but do the math. And that percentage comes off the top. So if the commission coming in is $10,000, I get $2,500, and then they split the rest with their broker. So it's a nice way to add money. I used to have an agent who worked for my company. He was a hairdresser, an amazing hairdresser. He never went out and showed a house in his life, but he got his real estate license because everyone sitting in his chair talks to him. And then when somebody needed to buy or sell a house, he would refer them back to our company, and he would get 25% every single time. So he was double dipping while he was doing hair all day. And that will more than pay for your real estate license. So what's the other downside? Oh, go ahead.
One question. Is
Sure.
there like a standard fee in terms of the percentage that the broker gets from the licensee?
No. And so generally the way it works, you have to think of it this way. They will go, there are three different ways that brokers can charge you. They can charge a split, a portion of every commission you bring in. They can also charge you a flat fee every single month. And they can charge you a per transaction fee. So let's say you do a fee and then off of each commission comes out a $100 admin fee or whatever. They can do 1, 2, 3, or a combination of all three. So you will see brokerages that are 100% commission, meaning you get 100% of every commission check, but you might have $500 a month in fees. And you might have to pay a flat fee of a few $100 off of each one of those. So, hello, how are you? So, I always say, go ahead. So I always say, it's all right. So I always say that, you guys are familiar with what APR is? You know APR, you see that. Do you know what APR means, like in English?
Percentage rate, and your percentage rate.
Right, but what does it mean? Do you know what it actually is? Most people don't know what it actually is. Is it shut?
It's so you can compare apples to apples.
Compare apples to apples. How? How do they take an apple and an orange?
That are applied to each loan.
Exactly. So exactly. What's your name?
Ed.
Ed's so smart. So an APR, what it does is it takes the rate that we're being charged and the fees that we're being charged, and it takes the fees that are associated with the loan, because sometimes you take a loan, like a car loan, and they charge you fees. So you might have Chrysler that says, we're only charging you 2%, but we have $3,000 worth of fees. And then you go over here to Ford, and they're like, we're charging you 5%, but no fees. How do you know which is the better deal? Well, the law says that we have to take the fees associated with the loan and convert them as if they were interest. Now we know that that 2% really is, even though they're charging you 2% because of those fees, it's really like an effective 4%. But over here, we see it's 5% and no fees. We still know that's a better deal. So that's exactly what an APR is. Unfortunately, there's no APR for broker splits. And I wish there was, because it can get really confusing. You go in and the broker says, I'm giving you 100%, but you have to pay this fee every month and this fee every time you close. How do you know if that's a better deal than someone over here saying, I'm giving you 60%, but I'm not charging you anything?
Plus there's cap rates now also.
Some companies give caps.
Yeah.
They give commission caps where you go in and what
Caps.
Yeah, but not all companies do caps. And what Ed's talking about with caps is that some companies offer where you go in and your calendar year starts when you're on your date of hire. And so now, as soon as in that 12-month period you meet your cap, which means the company made X amount of dollars from you in commissions, for the rest of the year you get 100%. And then when you get to that anniversary, it starts over again. So it's very complicated, and it also depends on where you are in your business. So for example, 100% commission split might be great for a seasoned agent because they know they have enough business coming in to cover that overhead every month. But you're brand new, and 100% might seem great, but what if you have no deals for 3 or 6 or 9 months? Or what if you just want it to be your side hustle, and now you have to pay this big monthly nut every single time, no matter what? So the short answer is no, there is no standard, and the long answer is it's freaking complicated, right? It's very
There's a
complicated.
term for it, complicated.
Huh? I just made that up, right? It's like your relationship status on Facebook. It's complicated. It's complicated. So those are things to consider. And also, remember that when you get your, and this is another big thing, and this is a plug for my school, but it's a genuine plug, and this is why I started my own school, is because in real estate school, they don't teach you that stuff. They teach you for the exam. And I'm opposed to that because, like I said in the beginning, you think the hard part is taking your classes. That's the easy part. The hard part is waking up and being unemployed because you have no business, or figuring out how to choose a broker, or figuring out what kind of real estate you want to get into or how you want to niche. And so I build that into my classes. I build that into my course. I built that into my school. And I even have a community aspect to my school. It's an online community where it's kind of like a Facebook group, but it's not on Facebook. And so all the students get added into that community, and you can post things that have to do with real estate, and we host lunch and learns every Tuesday. So you can check out a lunch and learn. We have all kinds of industry experts that are on there. And so I firmly believe, and so even though it can be overwhelming, you should definitely, that's one of the things that you should look for when you're looking for a school. And if you decide you want to take the online course or whatever, I have a Facebook group that you could join that's free to jump in there. I have tons of free information out there to help you, so it's not just a money grab. Like, I believe in education, okay? So we talked about the cost. There's also, remember, every 2 years you have to do your 14 hours of CE. So there's a cost. My charge for all 14 hours is $111. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what it costs. So it's going to be around $99 to $100 for the CE every 2 years, plus another $100 to the state to renew your license. That's in May 31st of every even numbered year. So that's what the costs are going to run you. Now let's talk about the MLS, because this is the second main reason why people get their license. You have access to Zillow, you have access to Realtor.com, you have access to LoopNet, whatever. All of that data comes from us, not LoopNet. That's the commercial side, but the residential side, and like Residential, we have some commercial on MLS, but mostly residential. That comes from us. Every single real estate agent who goes to list a property and is a member of the MLS enters it into the MLS, and instantly every other member of the MLS has access to that information. So now you can see that information, you know how much commission is being offered, you can click on one button and schedule a showing online, you can get all the information, you can click on the link and contact the listing agent if you have questions. We can store documents and files on there, seller's disclosure, leases, lead disclosure, presentation of offers, any other kind of information that we want. So you have access to a wealth of information in real time. These third-party sites like Zillow and Realtor.com, they're syndicating our data. And as a consumer, you're accessing some of it, but you're not accessing all of it. And so the MLS is so powerful that if they charged me 10 times a year what they charge me now, I would not blink and I would pay it, because that's my moneymaker. This used to be my moneymaker. Now the MLS is my moneymaker, right? I'm 51. I gotta keep it real. So I would pay anything to keep that MLS, because I call it like my license to print money. And we're not all about money. I mean, obviously we have ethics and we do things right, but I think as investors, I think money is sort of the main topic here, so that's what I'm focusing on, okay? I consider my real estate license sometimes a license to print money, and I'm going to tell you a little story. I was at a convention. We have what's called Triple Play, which is my favorite 4 days of the year. It's the Realtor convention. Remember, Realtor means you're a member of NAR. It's a trade organization for real estate agents. Not every real estate agent is a member of NAR, but we have about 1.6 million members across the country, and we're the largest trade organization for real estate. And so when you join NAR, you're also a member of your state organization and your local. My local is JBREA, Greater Philadelphia Association, but there's also Bucks County, there's Suburban West, there's all different, depending on where you live and work. So every December, we have a convention for New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, Triple Play, right? It should be called like Triple Threat, Triple Play, because did you guys see what happened this year?
Yeah, I heard they're not going to have it anymore because of this mortgage.
they're gonna,
Fights.
I can't, it was crazy, but I don't think they're not gonna have it anymore.
No, they're not going to invite the mortgage broker.
Oh, they're not gonna invite the mortgage brokers, you know.
Started the fight.
So yeah, there was a crazy drunken fight at the Caesars at, not the Caesars, at the shops at the, what's it called, the Quarter. But it's a great convention that we do every single year where you go to seminars, you can get some of your CE, and there's an expo at the convention center where you meet all the vendors and you network, and then the mortgage brokers have parties and invite you to the parties, and then people get drunk and cause trouble. That gets on the national news, but whatever. So I was at a seminar at Triple Play this year, and one of the guys, his name is Jared James, he's a real estate coach. He coaches real estate agents, and he said one of the things he does is he coaches his agents is to go on Instagram stories and post a question on your story that says, is anyone looking to buy or sell a house? So I said, I'll try it while I'm sitting there. And I literally posted it on my brokerage, are you looking to buy or sell a house? Stories last 24 hours. I did this around 1 p.m. and overall, I got 175 views on my story, which is more than I get. I'm not like Insta famous. So I get 175, and it was a lot for me. 15 people replied to my story. 8 said, no, I'm not looking to buy or sell. 7 said yes. So I replied to all the people that said no, and I said, good for you. Moving sucks. You don't have to move. I hope you love your house. You can sign up for my free HomeBot, which is where you can, it'll tell you the value of your house. Every single month it sends you a report. The people that said yes, I reached out to one person who I know just had their second baby, and I said, oh, are you outgrowing your house? And had a conversation with her. She said, oh no, we're not outgrowing the house, but we're trying to figure out what to do with all that money we have in savings. And I was like, I know what to do with all the money you have in savings. Let's go buy an investment property. So we're in talks about that, but she's busy with 2 kids, and it was the holidays and blah, blah, blah. The other 6 people, I wrote to them and I just said, oh, that's great, you're looking to buy or sell, what's going on? Nobody answered except for one person. And she said, I want to sell my house, but someone's living there and won't get out, and so I'm stuck and I can't sell it. And I said, you're not stuck, we can still sell your house. And I got on the phone with her and I figured it out. By 9:30 that night, I had a signed listing contract from Atlantic City because everything is done on DocuSign. And I did not have to go see the house because it was being sold drive-by only because it has a tenant in there, a squatter, not a tenant, a squatter. And so we offered it for less money. You know that as investors, if you buy something with someone that you have to eject or evict, you're gonna get a discount on it because you have to deal with getting this person out. So we listed it that way. I never had to leave my house. I never had to meet her face to face. Not that I would mind, but I'm just saying. And she sent me pictures that she had on her phone because I can't get in there and photograph it. 6 days later, I had a signed contract. I never had to leave from behind my computer. It's closing on the 14th. And it's about $6,000. It's a $169,000 property. $6,000, now you have to pay taxes on that. But when I say a license to print money, one of my favorite things to do is sell vacant lots. Because I send lists of vacant lots to my investors, they buy them, they drive by, I never leave my house.
No home inspections.
No home inspections. And obviously you could do an environmental if it's a big project, but I usually sell like single family lots in the city. But even if you have to leave your house, it's not the end of the world. But the point is there's so much that you can do with it. Now let's talk about the major downside, because there is a downside. And here's the downside as an investor. Once you get your real estate license, you must disclose that you are a licensee every single time you're doing a transaction.
That's not too bad, no.
It's not that it's not too bad, but it is definitely a deterrent for some investors because the reason that the law says you have to disclose it is because you're considered to have an unfair advantage because you have this education, this higher level of knowledge. And some investors, this doesn't sit right with me because I think that you should disclose it, and it wouldn't bother me, but some investors don't like to let people know. It's just like some landlords, have the beat up pickup truck that they use when they take out and pick up the rent, and they leave the Lamborghini for when they're out with their friends. It's the same kind of thing. they don't want to say that they have a real estate license because they just want to act like they don't really know what's going on. They don't want to disclose their unfair advantage. So what some people have actually done, because the amount of education, I didn't even talk about the education yet, and I will talk about that because it's really an important piece. But they want the education, but they don't want to have to disclose. I've had people take the class and then just choose not to get their license. They take the class to keep the education, but if you don't take the exam and hang your license, you don't have to disclose it. So they've done that sort of, but then they don't have access to the MLS or commissions. Okay, so I just want to wrap up with, and I'm not going anywhere if you have questions, but my presentation, I'm going to wrap up and talk about the education piece. Because I'm an investor. I was a loan officer. When I first got my real estate license, I also had a job as a mortgage loan officer for the first like 5.5 years. So I have a pretty good background on financing. I have a pretty good background on real estate. I've been doing it for a minute, and I'm an investor. And I will tell you that there are, and I meet people in real estate from all walks because I have my hand in a lot of pots. And there are so many investors out there who totally know their stuff and they know what they're doing. But there are also investors out there that saw it on TikTok. So they're like, oh, I'm going to go invest. It's true. We all know it's true. You see it on YouTube. You see it on TikTok. You see it, whatever. And there's so much education out there. But if you're just taking bits and pieces, one of my favorite sayings is you don't know what you don't know. So if someone's telling you this is how you do this piece of investing and that's how you do that piece of investing, you don't know that you're missing the whole foundation. The only way you know you're missing the foundation is if you have the foundation. You don't know what you don't know. And there's something about going for a good real estate education, which is again why I'm not a giant fan of the asynchronous do-it-yourself, because I'm an education real estate nerd, and I'm constantly, that's my jam, right? Everybody's got their own, so I'm not trying to shove it down your throat, but that's what I do, that's what my passion is, and I can never be educated enough. I'm always, just because I'm driven, because it interests me. And so when I have people that come in my classroom, and I have this responsibility to make sure that I know what you don't know so that I can teach it to you. And the education that you get and the continuing ed that you do, and then the broker's license, which if you get your license, consider getting your broker's license. I'll preach about that later. We'll do it in bits and pieces. I don't want to overwhelm you.
Can I add something
Yeah.
for new investors?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're a brand new investor, I would suggest you find a mentor and pay them to teach you how to invest. Because the money you pay that investor, you'll save on the first big mistake, buying real estate and making a mistake. It'll cost you that. It could cost you that money. So
Well, how do you find them?
Atia Blair.
Who?
Atia Blair. ATTIYAH.
Very good. Yeah.
She's the best of the best. ATTIYAH.
Just be prepared to, they're not going to do it for free.
No, of course not.
Time and money.
And it's an investment.
Is that her name like on Instagram or Facebook?
Yeah, she's Atia Blair, and she's the real estate reset.
Yeah.
And why do you recommend her if I may ask?
I'll tell you. Oh, absolutely. So I walked in to substitute for a class at Temple. The instructor needed, I don't know, we switched or something. And I walked into the class, this was a few years ago, and everybody was sitting there all dressed in sweatpants and stuff. Nothing wrong with that. I would have been in sweatpants if I could. And they all look like, I just assume when I walk into a real estate class that nobody knows what they're doing yet because they're in real estate class. So I'm talking, and not as an insult, I just assume, right, that they're, so I walk into the class and I'm sitting there and I'm doing my thing and I'm talking, and all of a sudden this woman raises her hand and she opens her mouth and I saw a golden halo. I'm not kidding you. I'm an energy person. I saw a golden, not a halo, I'm sorry, a golden light around her. And when she spoke, the chills, just the energy in the room went bananas. And it was Atia. And she had already been an investor, but she wanted to get her real estate license for the same exact reason why I'm talking to you guys. And she actually hangs her license with my brokerage, but she's not out there representing buyers and sellers. She's got her real estate license in her pocket so that she has access to the MLS and so that she doesn't leave any money on the table. And she has the real estate reset. She's out there, well, she might still be in Hawaii now, but if she's back, she's out there buying multifamily properties using the BRRRA method. And she's out there, her dad was a contractor, so she grew up at his hip, learning how to do it.
So she had a mentor also, so.
Her father, yes, she did. She's gotten mentors, and I'm not poo-pooing mentors. And she's definitely had mentors, but she is superhuman. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, I just randomly the other day I texted her and I kind of got teary and I just said, thank you for being in my life. Like, she's one of those people. She's incredible. And so she has these multifamily properties and she's gorgeous, like a bombshell. And she walks around these construction sites and these, you know, and so they think she doesn't know what she's doing. And then she's like, it doesn't matter about my hair or my hair. It matters about how you're pouring the foundation, right? She's a badass. Yeah, she's incredible. So she does the real estate reset, and I don't know how she's doing it now because of COVID, but the way she used to do it is she used to have a room like this for 2 days. I think it was 2 days, like a whole weekend, and people would come. They fly from all over the country, and they come, and she takes them through a whole entire 2-day thing. It was like $2,000 or something at the time. I don't know what she's charging now, but it's worth 5 times that much. And then she takes them onto one of her construction sites, one of her projects, and walks them through, and she takes through the whole entire thing. And she did a video the other day. She was taking one of her students out to congratulate her for getting her first property, and ran into another one of her students who said, we just closed on our second property. So the money you spend on a TIA and the real estate reset and getting her in any kind of courses or whatever she had, I don't care if you have to go work 3 jobs to pay for it, you will make, you're so right, you'll 10 times it in your first deal. And I don't get an affiliate. Like, I'm not selling you this I'm serious. Like,
her name is spelled A-T-T-I.
Y-A-H. Atia Blair, she's the real estate reset, B-L-A-I-R.
On Facebook.
Yeah, and Instagram, she's everywhere. She's incredible. So I would definitely look up to her as a mentor.
She's a bombshell.
She is a bombshell. Oh my God, you should, she will kill me, but trust, I have the video to prove it from Triple Play a few years ago when we were out at a party. But we'll talk about that another time. We'll talk about that over drinks. But I would definitely follow her. There are plenty. And also, no, I think she's just the best. I can't even think of anyone else better than her to help you.
How about Clubhouse? Are you on Clubhouse?
I am not so much on Clubhouse. I know I should be. Atia's on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Atia's on Clubhouse. I'm going to get on Clubhouse eventually, at some point, but I'm not right now.
That's your 2022 goal.
I'm working on my YouTube channel right now.
Oh.
That's my 2022 goal.
I thought you'd had that by now.
I do, but we're working on keyword optimization, you know, that whole thing. I just want somebody to put asses in seats so I can teach, but in the beginning when you're building a school and you're building a thing, you have to work on getting asses in seats too. So there's the education piece of it, and what Atia can teach you is top-notch stuff. It's different than what I teach you in the real estate courses. And that might be enough for you. She knows a lot and she has a real estate license. So that's not her focus when she's taking you through the real estate reset. It's about how to structure a deal and investment and all that kind of stuff. But there's also the real estate piece of it too, because there's a lot of law involved with real estate. It's not as sexy as what Atia is teaching, but it's going to keep you out of trouble. It's going to help you understand all the tools that are available to you so that you can make interesting deals happen. I'll just give you one more example, and then, because I could talk all day and I don't want to bore you, although it's warm in here now. But here's one example. I had a client once who owns a warehouse, and next to the warehouse was a community garden. And the community garden was made up of 7 different parcels. 5 of those parcels were owned by the garden, the 501c3, and 2 of them were owned privately. And because I pay attention to the market through MLS, I noticed that one of those parcels came up for sale because it was privately owned. And so I called my client right away. He was president of this garden, and it was literally right next to his warehouse, like a side yard. And I said, you, meaning the garden, you guys need to buy that parcel. And it wasn't because I wanted to make money. It was because I knew a developer was going to come in and build a house in the middle of their community garden. And he said, the garden doesn't have any money to buy the house. And I said, you have to figure it out. You can't let this happen. So we ended up structuring a deal where I had him buy that lot. and he swapped it with the garden for the lot right next to his warehouse so that he would have a side yard. But it was a complicated deal, and I just want to explain to you what your real estate education does for you. I was able to use the knowledge and the tools that I have from knowing real estate, and what we did was we took that lot that was next to his building. The lot next to his building went all the way back, so it was like over 100 feet deep. The lot that we were, the garden, in the middle of the garden was half that. It was 75, or it was 150 deep and 75 deep. So this one was worth half of that one. So we had to figure out a way to make it an even swap. So what we did was, in order to make the deal work, we told my client, he agreed that on this 150 feet deep lot, he was going to let the garden put a deed restriction on it, which means he's never allowed to build a permanent structure on that lot. That devalued that lot by 50% and made it equal in value to the one they were swapping. So what happened was, the garden now still lost a piece of land because there was nothing they could do about it, but it's still going to look like garden because they can't build anything on it. They now have the one in the middle, so nobody can build on it. But what's in it for my guy that paid $80,000? What's in it for him is that now, because his warehouse went right up to the property line, and it was facing south towards the Center City skyline. So it has sunshine all day and a skyline view. And he wants to turn it into condos. But if he doesn't own the land next to it, he's not allowed to put windows in, or balconies, or doors. So now he paid $80,000 to own this piece of land that you might think is worthless because he can't build anything on it.
The value is only to him though.
Exactly, because he's going to incorporate the lot lines, but he's going to develop it into condos, and now he can put balconies and windows and doors overlooking the Center City skyline with sunshine all day. This thing will make him $200,000.
Be able to build on that.
No one can ever build on it, and he'll be able to now increase the value of those condos. Would you rather buy a condo with no windows on the side or windows all over and sunshine streaming in all day? So this deal that I did, if I didn't go to real estate school and I didn't learn my stuff, I wouldn't know what deed restrictions are. I wouldn't understand about air rights. I wouldn't know about curtilage. I wouldn't understand about all of these things and how to make them work. So not only did I do that, that lot that I sold was $80,000, so my commission was about $2,400, which is nothing to sneeze at, but it ain't gonna make or break me, kiddo. But guess what happened? He referred me to the guys across the street that owned a bunch of the vacant lots in that pie shape in the middle. I made just in that thing $80,000. And one of those guys, I now have one of his listings, vacant lots if anyone's interested, 43rd and Brown. I have his vacant lots for sale now, and then I'm going to list another property. So this is how it goes. And even if you don't want to be someone that's going out and selling real estate, you can do it hand in hand with your investing.
A lot of construction going up around there.
There totally is.
Yeah.
There totally is. His is a weird lot because it's like this big empty thing that almost looks like a park, and then he just owns an L-shaped sliver. So it's like nobody wants to be the first one at the party, so it's sitting, but it'll sell. It'll sell eventually. So that's all I got. Are there any questions about anything? Yes.
They can't build on it ever, right?
Correct.
Suppose somebody die. Can you rezone it?
No. So I'll do deed restrictions for a minute. This is what we learn in school. So a deed restriction is called a private restriction. We know public restrictions are like zoning and stuff like that. A deed restriction is private. It's between my client and the garden. Now, when they decided that, the price of this lot, which actually was a swap, but the price was based on the fact that we're never allowed to build on it. It's called a deed restriction because it's recorded on the deed. It says he owns this in severalty, comma, subject to, comma, and then however the attorney wrote out the deed restriction. And now anytime if he goes to sell it, when they transfer the deed, it's on the deed, and that deed restriction is going to come in the legal description and go to the next one. Now, the trick is, how do you enforce a deed restriction? And this is where it gets interesting, is because right now, the only people that know about the deed restriction are him, the garden, me, and now you, but you don't even know the address. None of the neighbors know unless the garden told everybody. The way to enforce a deed restriction is someone has to report it, and then we go to court and we make the person stop. So if it's now 100 years later and everyone who knew about it is dead, sorry, but in 100 years most of us are going to be dead, right?
Or if they go to sell it, then.
So
If they sell, it gets disclosed on the deed, but here's the thing. If he starts building on there and no one complains, he keeps building. So if you don't know, you don't know. And that's the thing about the deed restriction. You could go look it up in public record and see it, but what's going to prompt you to go look it up? That's the thing. Did you have a question?
you kind of just answered sort of my question. So my question was going to be, don't they have to record the deed? But you just pretty much just said is they don't have to record the deed until he actually goes and sell it. So,
well, it's recorded now. I mean, it's on there now because when he did the swap, we'll say bought it, right? When he bought it, the new deed from the garden to him says the deed restriction on there. But unless you know to go look in City Hall and look up the deed, you just look at it as a vacant piece of land. And here's
Smart lawyer might know how to do it.
you
Not
have
the
to,
average person.
right? Well, it's easy to look up. Anybody could look it up. But my point is, if he goes to get a building permit, L&I isn't going to look at the deed and say we can't give you a building permit. L&I doesn't care. They don't look up the deed restriction. What's going to happen is he starts building, and somebody that's a neighbor or from the garden says you can't do that because they know there's a deed restriction. So it gets interesting. But this is the nerdy kind of stuff that I love in real estate school. And these are the kinds of things that you learn that are going to help you put really cool deals together. It's just an added layer, an added level of higher knowledge that's going to help you. Yes?
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
I came in late, so I don't know your name.
Janis.
Janis.
Janis, like Joplin. Even if I never see you spell it wrong, it will just eat my kishkas out that people spell my name wrong. It drives me bananas.
Oh, okay.
Everyone spells it wrong. Janis.
A real estate.
I own a real estate school and a real estate brokerage. So my school is Janis Benstock Real Estate Academy, and my brokerage is Settle Down Philadelphia. And they're both at 444 North 4th Street, the big building at 4th and Spring Garden.
North 4th Street?
Yep, 4th and Spring Garden. Well, 4th between Spring Garden and Calla Hill.
Okay, so if you had, or could I possess a license, a real estate license, and we wanted to transfer to you, what can we, like, how can I set up an appointment to
Oh, I'll give you my information. Yep, you can just, I'll give you all my social media, everything. I'll give you my cell phone number and we can talk.
I know that's what I came in on.
Do you already have your license?
Yes, but I basically did go through Temple Real Estate School to get my license
Right,
for what you said, to be on the MLS and things of that sort,
right.
for investment.
Yep.
So I guess my challenge a lot of time is I don't do it really for, the normal reason. There's so many fees. So that's what I wanted.
Well, I'm investor friendly, so I work things out for people that if your jam is I'm just doing it for my stuff, you don't have to come to all the meetings and the whatever. I have people like Atia.
Perfect for a referral agent. Referring.
Yeah.
You would be good as a referral agent.
But you don't get access to the MLS.
Yes, you still have access. But if somebody wanted to buy a house, you would refer another agent to them. To actually
You're saying I get access to the MLS as a referral agent?
A referral, yeah. So it's what he's saying is if you get your license and you hang your license and you have access to the MLS to do your own deals, you can also, if somebody wants to buy or sell a house and you don't feel like going out and working them, you can refer to someone else in your office and just get a referral fee as part of the commission.
Exactly.
So are you in another job or industry that you meet a lot of people? Is that why you're saying that?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your other, do you have another?
Pharmacist.
You're a pharmacist. Okay, so I guess when you meet people and you talk to people all the time, while you're a pharmacist, what Ed's saying is that if someone comes along and you start talking and they say they want to buy a house or sell a house, you can still earn portion of the commission by referring it to someone else in the office. So that's what he's saying about referral. Now, I think what you're thinking is referral status.
No, I've been a referral agent, and I've never been able to get to join
MLS
friends or anything like that. Right.
Right.
And that's correct, right?
Right, if you're referral status, then you can't do, right. He's saying you can just refer. So you could be regular status, like a full-on agent, but you could refer deals out that you don't want to do yourself.
Okay,
Yeah, you know that. And it's so funny, I still call it trend. It's bright, it's been bright. I know, I still call it trend too.
You can make a side business just generating leads for other agents and letting them take the, and then you just collect a fee from them.
Yeah.
Right. I was just talking about the fees that
Yeah.
they were being an agent.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's going to cost you about $1,000 a year because you have MLS fees. You have MLS fees and you have your realtor fees in my brokerage because I'm a member of NAR. If you join a brokerage that's not realtor, then you're going to save on those fees, and that's about $600 a year. Then you're just going to pay your MLS fees and whatever the brokerage charges you.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm happy to talk to you after here. But anybody who wants to find me, I'm Janis, Jani. Well, the email at the school is easier. hello@jbrea.net. JBREA for Janis Benstock Real Estate Academy. And I'm here so you can come up and we can swap Instagrams and Facebooks and all kinds of stuff and phone numbers.
Are people building on these lots? Like, are they, what do you call those, modular homes, or what are they doing?
What is who doing?
The people who you're selling the lots to?
Oh, those lots, they're listed. They haven't sold yet.
I mean, like when you can sell them, like that condo you were telling me, but that's from the ground up, or is it modular homes, or what are they?
This warehouse example, he has a warehouse that he's going to convert to condos. I've never had any of my clients build modular homes, as far as I know.
Her lots are ground up construction.
Yeah, they're typically ground up.
Stick built normally.
Typically, but
modular, but mostly.
right. But I'm not a developer. I'm not building. Yeah, no. So what I'm saying is, I sell them and then they do whatever they want. But most of them are from the ground up.
If it's zoned multifamily, you can put a duplex on it, or you can put a triplex on it. Depends whatever the lot it's zoned for.
So I'm just asking because I know a developer who does a lot of modular homes. Do you know any
lots that
why they would do that? Or,
modular homes? Because they're less expensive and they're easier to build.
okay.
Absolutely, because modular homes are built on site. They're built in the factory. And so, especially now during the time of COVID, this is a perfect example of when labor costs fluctuate, people get sick, then we have crazy weather, we have supply and demand issues with materials, and when you do modular homes, everything is built in the factory, and it's built like assembly line and built in sections. And so it's a controlled environment, and it's still subject to, the market conditions and subject to COVID and price fluctuations and all of that. But we're not, if you think about how inefficient it is on a construction site, you have to schedule, are the drywall's coming? And then somebody has to sit there, and then the drywall's late, and then everybody else is held up. It's really labor intensive to build that way. And that's how we've been doing it forever. But now with modular homes, it really makes that part of the process so much more efficient, and it's becoming a lot more common. And did you guys see the article that Habitat Humanity just delivered their first 3D printed house in concrete? Did you see that? It's pretty fascinating. They literally built, what was it, like 12 hours or some ridiculous low, I forget. It was they 3D printed a house in concrete for a Habitat Humanity buyer.
Wow.
Insane, absolutely insane. So there's a lot of stuff going on, with construction. And when you're in real estate, you know that. It's we already talked about this, it's a small town, we all know each other, share information, and all that good stuff.
There was a big project at 25th and Washington. It was all modular. They brought it in.
25th.
Was that Ori?
Yeah, it was Ori. I think it was Ori. I don't know. He's building right next to it.
Yeah.
25th and West.
Washington Avenue. So it's up now. You go by, you wouldn't even know that it was modular. You wouldn't even know it. It's all finished.
So warm in here now. Any other questions from anyone? Well, I thank you so much. If anyone needs my contact information, I'll stick around for a minute.
Do you have an
No, I totally didn't bring enough and I can't even believe it.
Something's wrong with my phone.
I can text you my, let me text, whoops, let me text you.
I hear what
Oh, okay.
I know how to get hold of you.
Oh, okay. You work with?
Another one?
Thank you.
No, I'm just saying.
You work with? Oh, no, this is first. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, guys, thanks for hanging. It's nice meeting anyone. Oh, and one more thing, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say, if you're here and you decide that you want to sign up for my course, as a nice little gift incentive, you get a free textbook. So just make sure if you sign up for courses, you send me an email when you sign up. You can do everything online. Our next classes are starting February 1st, and there are Tuesdays and Thursday evenings from 5:30 to 8:30. So it runs from February 1st till the end of April. There might be one day in there that we're off. It's all on my website, but just so you can get an idea schedule-wise if it's something you want to do. And if you decide that you want to do the real estate course online, the asynchronous, you can get that through my website too. And that'll just get you, by doing it that way, then you also become a member of that online community I told you about. So you get that included as an incentive if you decide you want to do it that way. Okay? Thanks for hanging, guys.
All right, thank you.
Yep.